From South Carolina Public Radio, this is the South Carolina Lede. I'm your host, Gavin Jackson, and this episode was recorded on May 13th, 2024, from South Carolina Public Radio Studios here in Columbia. On this episode of The Lede, we look at what's going on in Washington and South Carolina this week.
No way.
We hear from Senator Lindsey Graham, who was on Meet the Press on Sunday following some spicy remarks last week in a Senate hearing over weapons shipments to Israel. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin gave the commencement address to the South Carolina State University class of 2024, and we have more analysis from the end of the legislative session.
Is there anything else?
Scott Morgan brings us a report on the aftermath of that late April storm that severely damaged several homes in York County. The Lede loves hearing from everyone. That's why we have our voicemail box set up 24/7, 365, 366 this year. You can call 803-563-7169. Give AT some parenting advice. Tell us what's going on this summer. School's about to be out. Session's out. What are you doing? Are you going to a cool day camp? Arts and crafts? 803-563-7169. Let's start off by looking at this week's calendar.
Yes.
This week, Governor Henry McMaster held a post-legislative session press conference Monday afternoon. Up in Congress, the U.S. House and Senate are in session this week, unlike what's going on down here in Columbia. On Wednesday, President Joe Biden and congressional leaders addressed an annual police memorial service at the Capitol. And on the 2024 campaign trail, former Trump fixer Michael Cohen kicked off the fourth week of testimony in former President Donald Trump's hush money trial in New York. As for Biden's schedule this week, per Politico, on Thursday, President Biden meets with plaintiffs from Brown v. Board of Education at the White House. On Friday, Biden delivers remarks at the National Museum of African American History and Culture. And on Saturday, Biden travels to Atlanta for a fundraiser. Sunday, he delivers the commencement address at Morehouse College before traveling to Detroit for the annual NAACP Freedom Fund dinner. And on the economic calendar this week, Wednesday, Econ Pod. Look out for Econ this week. On Wednesday, we get April inflation numbers.
Oh my God.
Everyone's going to have something else to gripe about if it's going up. And the Consumer Price Index comes out Wednesday morning, folks. Let us know how much you're paying at the grocery store. And Senator Lindsey Graham was on one of the Sunday shows this weekend. Yes, he grilled Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin last week in the Senate, specifically over the Biden administration's admission that it had paused sending some 3,500 bombs to Israel over concerns that those massive bombs would be used in Rafah, where some 1.4 million Gazans have been under evacuation orders ahead of the incursion into the city, where Israel officials say Hamas still has a stronghold. Graham was on NBC's Meet the Press on Sunday, and part of his comments were used in the opening to the segment between him and moderator Kristen Welker. Take a listen.
If we stop weapons necessary to destroy the enemies of the state of Israel at a time of great peril, we will pay a price. This is obscene. It is absurd. Give Israel what they need to fight the war they can't afford to lose. This is Hiroshima and Nagasaki on steroids.
Why shouldn't Israel's war against Hamas proceed in a more precise way with a clear plan to mitigate civilian deaths in Gaza?
Well, I think it's impossible to mitigate civilian deaths in Gaza as long as Hamas uses their own population as human shields. I've never seen in the history of warfare such blatant efforts by an enemy, Hamas, to put civilians at risk. And the last thing you want to do is reward this behavior. They put weapons in mosques. They fire artillery rounds from apartment buildings. They put command centers under hospitals to maximize civilian casualties as Israel tries to destroy the terrorist group. You don't want to reward this by restricting weapons to the victim of their attack. But let me just say this. This is Mother's Day, happy Mother's Day, but this is a tough time for the world. What Senator Sanders said, not another nickel of military aid to the United States, is the most dangerous, irresponsible statement in the history of the U.S. relationship. This is not Vietnam. Israel is in a fight for their lives. Hamas says they will do it again and again and again. They're dedicated to the destruction of the Jewish state, not helping the Palestinian people. Iran, the great Satan, vows to destroy Israel. So does Hezbollah. Israel is surrounded by forces, terrorist groups that want to destroy the Jewish state, not help the Palestinians. This is 9/11 and Pearl Harbor all rolled into one. To abandon Israel under these circumstances would be outrageous. It would be dangerous. And Republicans are going to fight back against Bernie Sanders and the squad.
Senator, let me just push you a little bit, though, because, of course, the United States has provided Israel with tens of thousands of bombs and missiles, just to prove some $14 billion in military aid last month. So the United States, even the IDF has given it an extraordinary amount of support. I want to ask you, though, do you think Israel is in any way prepared to listen to work with President Biden? And is he trustworthy? And let me ask it this way. In a survey this week, more than half of Israelis said they thought Prime Minister Netanyahu's chief consideration was his own political survival. You've said you trust Israel more than the U.S. Defense Secretary. But why should Americans trust Netanyahu to put the United States' interests first?
Americans should be all in helping Israel against an existential threat. The one thing Israel and America has in common, Hamas would attack us if they could. Iran is the largest state sponsor of terrorism that shouts death to America, and Hezbollah is in the same camp. I've never heard anybody in Israel chant death to America. The people Israel is fighting are bent on destroying all of the Jews. This is Holocaust Remembrance Month, for God's sakes. We should unequivocally support Israel. Yes, work with them to limit civilian casualties. They want to do that. I know they do. They have a whole battalion dedicated to that. But this idea of withholding weapons to Israel is rewarding the tactics of Hamas to put civilians at risk. Here's my statement to the administration. Sit down with Israel, keep the weapons flowing, and work out a plan, if you can, that gets us all to where we need to be. I talked with Israel this morning. They are discussing with the Biden administration a way forward. I am somewhat hopeful we can jump over this impasse, but do not let Bernie Sanders run this war. Bernie Sanders and the squad are insane when it comes to how to defend Israel. He just said on national television, cut off every nickel of military aid to the Jewish state who's being threatened with oblivion. Shut these people down. This decision was political. He's trying to appease the radical left Biden is.
Question about 2024. Will you accept the results of the 2024 election, no matter who wins?
Yeah, I'll accept it. But I think, if there's no massive cheating, I accepted 2020.
Speaking of Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, he was in Orangeburg on Friday to give the commencement address at South Carolina State University. He was introduced by one of the historically black college's most famous alumni, Congressman Jim Clyburn. Take a listen to part of Secretary Austin's remarks before the graduating class of 2024.
So number one, education gives you the power to make change, even when it's hard, and to help America live up to its full promise. You know, I've lived that. I grew up in Georgia in the time of Jim Crow. And our local public high school had long been whites only. And so when I was a teenager, I became one of the first black students to integrate it. Those were hard days, painful days, ugly days. But you know, I am still moved by the memory of every person who fought to make sure that I could get a good public education. The teachers, the officials, and the neighbors. And I still remember their determination and their decency. And I still carry forward their lesson, which is that living up to this country's founding values means bringing everyone along and leaving no one out, and drawing on the full talents of all the American people. And I am honored to stand here today with you as America's first black Secretary of Defense. Now, I doubt that the people that were trying to keep me out of that school Imagine that they were blocking the education of a future four-star general and a cabinet official. But you never know which kid is going to grow up to be Bob Johnson or Oprah or Chadwick Boseman or Stacey Adams or Barack Obama or Kamala Harris. You never know what we lose when we leave someone out. And so we don't have one American to spare. We don't have one citizen to squander. And that means that we need to keep working together to knock down barriers and to level the playing field and to let everybody compete to win. And you know, I saw that in action at West Point. As a cadet, I was thrown in with people from all walks of life. I was a Southern kid far away from home. But my teachers taught me more than just mathematics and military strategy. They believed in us. And I was lucky to have educators, including some very special black mentors who showed us all how to become a team and how to turn our differences into strength and how to turn hard work into results. And they showed us that leadership isn't just what you do, it's about who you are. So here's my second message. Your education at South Carolina State has already changed your lives. And it will keep making possible a number of new things. It has already shaped your character and equipped you to excel, and that won't stop. For nearly 130 years, South Carolina State has produced the skilled leaders that our country needs in agriculture, education, engineering, and so much more. You know, South Carolina State trains more black nuclear engineers than any school in the country. And the National Security Agency has designated South Carolina State as a center of academic excellence in cyber defense.
As we continue to unwind from the legislative session, let's revisit the last week.
All right.
I know. A big focus of our discussion in Saturday's podcast with fellow State House reporters centered around the House of Representatives and the last-minute movements that blocked that big public health agency restructuring bill, S-915. But we also spoke with Senate Majority Leader Shane Massey last Thursday about what was accomplished by the Senate and what more needed to be done this session. He gave this explanation about that massive House-approved energy bill that the Senate didn't support in its current form.
The House put a lot of time and a lot of work into that bill. There's no question about that. And I think there's some good things in there. The issue we had is that it's so comprehensive and it is so consequential for South Carolina, not just for now or next year, for the next 40 years or longer, that we need to make sure we get this right. And so we just wanted to make sure that we have enough time to fully understand it. Because, look, if I've got to go in front of the people that I represent and tell them that your electric rates are about to go up, I've got to be able to explain to them why. And if I voted for something that's going to make that happen, I need to be able to explain to them why. And so that's going to require, I think, a little bit more focus. The other issue that I've had is I really do not like that Dominion and co-op customers are paying for VC Summer, not getting anything in return. We're paying not only for the cost, but for a profit on top of it. We're not getting anything out of it. And now there's a request to make us pay for another plant that I wouldn't need, but for the failure of VC Summer. So we're going to have conversations about that, about what protections are going to be in place for customers going forward. That's what I hope will be part of the conversations in the fall. But I think we can get there. It's going to take a lot of work and a lot of people coming to the table. But I'm hopeful that we can get there, that we can continue to provide for South Carolina's energy needs, but at the same time, treating customers the right way, right? Because it can't go too far on either side. It's got to be a balance there. And for the longest time, the balance shifted entirely towards the utilities, and customers in South Carolina were not treated appropriately. Now the utilities think we've swung the pendulum too far the other direction. I'm not confident that's the case, but I'm willing to have the conversation.
Massey also spoke about how he handles conflict within his party in the chamber versus what has been playing out in the House, which is a bit easier when you're talking about the Senate, where there are 30 Republicans versus 88 Republicans in the House. It's a lot of cats to corral. And you'll hear at the end here the House bell ringing, so just FYI, that's a little State House ASMR.
Well, look, I've spent a lot of time over the last 6 or 7 years trying to develop good relationships with all the members of my caucus and to ensure that I can earn their trust and that they can trust me. And that has gone a long way, I think, to making sure that people feel like they're part of the team, that they have a voice at the table, and that what their opinions are seriously considered. And most of the time, I think you see that those issues that they're concerned about, we try very hard to take them up, and a lot of them are addressed. So I think there's a different feeling on the Senate side, where that people who over on the House side might be marginalized and might feel like they're not taken seriously. On the Senate side, they are taken seriously because they're senators who represent the same number of people that I represent. And I think that's important. So I try very hard to make everybody feel part of the team. So far that has worked, and that has led, I think, to our success. If we had had infighting, we would not have been nearly as successful on things like certificate of need and school choice and tax cuts and other things. So I've worked very hard on that, and we have a number of people on our side who have bought into that, and it's worked. Now, could elections change that? It could. I'm hopeful it doesn't. I think there are a number of senators in here who really hope that it doesn't. And I think you'll have senators, Republican senators, who are going to be resistant to people coming in just throwing bombs because of how successful we have been. They've seen that it can work, and that it works very well. But it does take a lot of effort. It takes a lot of time, and it requires leadership and people being engaged from a number of different fronts.
And moving on, South Carolina Public Radio's Scott Morgan has this report for us following that brutal storm that moved through York County on April 20th, bringing destructive high winds and large hail. Governor Henry McMaster last week requested a presidential disaster declaration to assist state and local recovery efforts. The request comes after extensive damage assessments determined 16 houses were destroyed, 12 homes experienced major damage, and residents experienced widespread roof and vehicle damage. Here's Scott Morgan.
There is nothing wrong with your radio. Do not attempt to adjust the sound. What you're hearing is a hailstorm, and if you hear one pummeling your house, you can expect to hear a lot of this immediately after.
I don't know if you call it aggressively. I don't think that they intend to be aggressively, but those first couple days, it became aggressive because it wasn't just one. I mean, we couldn't take a nap. We couldn't take a break because the doorbell just kept ringing, ring, ring, ring.
This is Jonica Joseph, whose experience answering the front door following the April 20th hailstorm in York County is that of, well, pretty much all of her neighbors in York County following that storm. A flood of roofing salespeople from seemingly everywhere within a half-day's drive, canvassing neighborhoods in and near where hail shattered windows, dented cars, and, of course, chipped roofing tiles. Even the most storm-battered residents of Rock Hill don't really have an issue with a business trying to get some more business. What they do have a problem with is how some of those roofing contractors go about getting that business.
One of the first ones that came over, I said, hey, look, this is my mom's house. My brother bought it for us in his name. So technically she's a renter. And then he's like, what's your name? I gave him my name. And then he was like, okay, I'm just going to get you to sign this. I was like, I'm not signing that. I just told you that we're not the homeowners. Why would you want us to sign? He was like, oh, you can just go ahead and sign. I was like, I am not signing this. Where do you get someone to sign a contract that, like, it wouldn't even be legally binding because I don't have a right to it?
What the guy wanted Joseph to sign is called a contingency agreement, or CA, an authorization for a roofing contractor to work with the homeowner's insurance company. Roofers like CAs because they're contracts. So following a hailstorm, a roofing salesperson might ring your doorbell, present you with a page or three of something to sign, and talk about how beneficial, maybe even necessary, signing a contingency agreement is. Dawn Johnson, an insurance professional in Rock Hill, says not so fast.
They actually say, don't worry about it. We'll do all the talking, kind of convince them that the insurance company's out to get them and that they're not going to try to give you everything that you deserve. And we do this for a living, so we'll take care of everything for you.
2 things Johnson wants you to know. 1, you, the property owner, absolutely do not have to sign anything to get an estimate. Your insurance company will send an adjuster out to tell you what your policy will pay for. And at that point is when you should call 3 or 4 roofing companies to come give you estimates. Plural. 2, the people waving those contracts in your face, they're not roofers. They're salespeople. And they're not all ethical.
Someone called me actually and said, hey, this guy's here. And they gave me the name of the company and said, he said you referred him. And I'm like, no, I did not. If someone is using someone's name as a referral, go ahead and call that person and ask them if they actually referred them.
But wait, there's more.
The guy who called me, who said somebody used my name as a reference, the contractor told him he would give him $300 if he would refer him to someone.
Drive around Rock Hill, especially in the less affluent neighborhoods of the city, and you'll see a string of roofer yard signs out front of houses like it's election day. Well, some of those might actually be a kind of carrot to get you to sign a CA. Jonica Joseph.
All these roofers, they keep coming by your house. Just go ahead and sign with this, and I'll put a sign outside so nobody else bothers you.
That actually does little to keep salespeople at bay. Joseph says not even an actual roofer on her mother's porch could do that.
One lady was talking to me, and another one walked up and handed me his card and was like, they're not local, call me when you're ready.
What worries Tim Veek is that folks who sign CAs under pressure or without really understanding them might be setting themselves up for shoddy work or no work.
That's been our fear from the very beginning when this storm hit the south side of Rock Hill is, oh my gosh, we hope that people don't get taken advantage of by less than reputable contractors who are coming through to sort of capitalize on a crisis.
Veek is the CEO of Habitat for Humanity of York County.
Unfortunately, just from our time being out in the neighborhood since it happened, it sounds like there's been sort of a scourge of folks that have landed on the neighborhoods in a way that has become completely overwhelming for residents.
And Veek's worry has precedent. About 13 years ago, a hailstorm damaged some older properties in the upper part of York County. And Veek says some residents Habitat set out to help a few years after that storm had stories like this.
We tried to have it repaired. We gave a contractor money and they never came back. Or we had a friend who said they'd help us out and we gave them money and that's the job they did, Or there's some where people did have work done, but it was not up to quality, not up to par, and really it probably created more damage for their home than what they had initially incurred. And then there was others who just outright were taken advantage of and lost a considerable amount of money.
A lot of residents who had stories like that a decade ago, they still haven't been able to get their homes repaired. Veek says that's because those homeowners can't afford insurance and can't pay for repairs out of pocket. This drives his concern about Rock Hill, which got the brunt of the storm's wrath on its south side, the poorest end of the city where older homes are more likely to be uninsured and not upkept over the decades. York County has requested FEMA aid to help pay for recovery from April's hailstorm, but that's a long shot because although the county so far estimates damages at about $5 million, the event likely falls short of FEMA's disaster relief threshold. Meanwhile, the Rock Hill Housing Development Corporation is helping some uninsured, low-income homeowners with storm-related repairs and is seeking donations to help pay for more.
That's South Carolina Public Radio's Scott Morgan. You can find that story and more on southcarolinapublicradio.org. Welcome to the wind down section, our little break from the news. We're glad you're here. Happy Monday. I know it's Tuesday or whenever you're listening to this podcast, but it's Monday for us, A.T. Shire. Podcast
it's
producer.
Monday as
Do you
hell.
know days? Do you even know days anymore?
Days are hard, I'm still working on them. It's tough. I mean, I could tell you how long 3 hours is, I got 3 hour intervals.
Yeah.
I got that on lock. Anyway, Gavin, we got some calls. We're going to do a classic double dip here.
Ooh.
This is the stuff that the lead gives you that you're not getting from other podcasts. Other podcasts aren't giving you multiple dips a day, okay? So, Gavin, are you ready for this first dip?
The old classic double dip?
Yeah. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, here we go.
Hey, it's Elizabeth from Mount Pleasant. and longtime listener, first-time caller. Want to thank you for broadcasting the Sunday news show there with Senator Tim Scott and his responses to will you support whoever wins the election, and him just never answering the question. Lost my vote for sure. And love your banter. Let's see. My advice for those of you who've just become a father is trust your gut. Advice given to me when I was pregnant. It turned out to be good advice. When you don't know and you're unsure, quick answer the question, should I do this or shouldn't I? And whatever the answer is, that is the answer. All right. Thanks an awful lot for your show. I learned so much about South Carolina politics and government, and glad you guys are on. All right. Have a great day. Bye.
Elizabeth from Mount Pleasant, thank you for calling. We love a long time, first time.
Oh, yeah.
Not enough of those out there, guys. Be like Elizabeth. Give us a shout.
We know you're there.
Trust your gut, like she said. Great advice. Always great advice.
Yes,
I love that
love
advice.
that.
I use that a lot, especially when I'm traveling and working on my own, which is why I kind of like doing that sometimes. Yes, I do like having a producer with me, but sometimes you start second-guessing yourself in those situations.
Then there are two guts in that situation to work
and I don't
through.
want to, and I only know this one, you know what I mean?
Yes.
But then also, then you start, the passive aggressiveness can kind of creep in sometimes too. And I just like get up and go. Like I don't have time to double think, double check. I will say though, when I travel with Meg Kennard on assignment,
yes,
we are pretty much in lockstep. Which is huge.
I trust Meg's gut on most everything.
I mean, we sometimes have to question each other sometimes. Should we do that? Which way? Blah, blah, blah. But like, I can travel with her. We can pick up and go, take as long as we need to do an assignment, and it's easy. So I mean, that's one of many reasons why Meg is one of the best people.
She is one of the greatest people of all time, just like you, Elizabeth. Thank you for calling so much. I love that advice.
Yeah.
And I truly trust your gut.
Yeah.
Listen to the professionals. I mean, those are the two things that I would say out of all this. Anyway, Gavin, second dip. This is a long time, many time caller.
Second dip.
Second dip.
Second dip.
Okay, here we go, Gavin. Are you ready?
Crunch sound effect.
Hey, Gavin and AP. This is baby's mama calling in. I've been meaning to call for a few weeks now. It just has been really crazy around here. Some updates from down here. My AP chemistry class, the ones who looked into the caffeine situation for Gavin, they took their AP chemistry test yesterday. I haven't seen them since they took it. I will see them this afternoon for fourth period, and it'll be interesting. I've heard rough things online about how the exam was written and what content was on it, but I'm proud of them. They have kicked butt and worked hard and done a lot of work to get to where we are with this. And now we can kind of relax a little, which is nice. AVs, I am so happy for you, AT. Congratulations to you and Caitlin. Just be there for Caitlin right now. I know it's hard to even explain the chaos that is being a brand new mama and dealing with all of the scary bits as well as your hormones, which can also be an extremely scary bit of it. Just give her space and forgiveness and grace and, keep her off Google. Google is not where you need to go. My baby is going to be 2 in August, and, my second baby. Her older brother is a sweet, sweet child. He's so good. Her, this little girl, she's fiery, she's crazy. She's the one who's convinced me I don't need another one, even though she's adorable. She is wild. So, I think we're good at 2. Anyways, just remember that that the baby is hardier than we think she is. You are not the world's worst parents, ever. You are doing a wonderful and fantastic job. Even if she couldn't hold her job down with the podcast, maybe she just needs a different position. Maybe instead of producer, she needs to be, interviewing people. I would listen to that. So good luck. Take care. Bye, y'all.
Thank you, baby's mama. We always love hearing from you, especially now. You know, we love that advice too. And her poor AP Chem class. Big shout out to those guys.
Tough test.
Hoping for the best. Can tell you, I don't really have any idea about AP tests because I never took them.
I've taken a few AP tests in my day.
Just for fun, or are you AP kid?
Oh, I do them on the weekends.
Oh,
for fun.
little jigsaw crossword puzzles. I like to do both.
I took some AP Calc tests and stuff.
Oh, yeah, you were a big math fan.
Absolute nightmares.
I was more of a words guy.
You're a picture guy. You take a great picture.
See and hear.
Yes. Speaking of seeing and hearing, Gavin, and thank you, baby's mama.
Two of my favorite sentences. I'm going to go and say that.
You see and hear a lot of new stuff as a new parent. Okay, truly. Maybe Meg Kennard can definitely back me up on this. Is that I'm now more sure than ever from putting all these things together, all this baby junk that they tell you need, all these mats for them to lay on, all these like ergonomic things to keep them alive.
Matto baby. Healtho Matter baby.
All of these things are just high dollar cat beds.
Correct.
Everything that is for a baby is $100 cat bed. And I mean,
it's like the wedding industry.
It truly is. It's nuts.
Oh, but I need this one because it's for a baby.
The more I look at it, the more I'm like, that is just a cat bed. Like that's a cat. The cats use it more than the baby does. Like you put the baby and it cries. The cats love it. It drives me nuts. I'm like, okay, this bean thing that I put her in, that's a cat bed. The Finding Nemo mat that I put together for her, the cats love it. She hates it. It's like, what are we doing?
Does Reginald, I'm sorry, to people that know.
Parmigiano Reggiano. That's his full name.
Does he entertain such devices?
Oh, he loves them.
Oh,
yeah. Actually,
seems a little lowbrow for him.
I will say, even lower brow. Reggie's favorite thing that I cannot throw out
slapstick humor
is a physical comedy. No, it is a long, narrow Swiffer box.
Oh,
he loves this.
He loves Procter & Gamble products.
He fits. He's a spokesperson. He gets paid for it, so he's sponsored.
Look how comfortable I'm in this box.
Anyway, if please back me up on this. Anyone who has cats and a baby,
they like any boxes though.
No, not the box. The priced up cat beds that they're selling people. Like you could go to a Petco and get the same thing for $25, but you're paying $85.
But then people would be talking.
I don't.
They're trying to make that baby into a cat. The baby has a litter box, and then it's all going to come full circle.
That's right. She came out asking for a litter box.
No, but you said Reggie likes a box.
Reggie loves every cat likes a box.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah, I know.
Kids love boxes too. Some of my favorite toys are still boxes.
Gavin has a rich imagination, folks.
To which AT says, "You have to get out of the box." I'm like, "No, baby, you don't see it. You don't get it.
You got to be in it. You don't have the imagination
in the box.
This box
outside the box
has great bones. Okay,
I'm a motivational speaker. Okay, if you guys need a motivational speaker, I bring the box with me.
Gavin
there's a box inside the box.
He's got great rates too. You got to see his rates. All right, he kills on the circuit. All right, he gives motivational speakers motivational speeches.
It's all on my LinkedIn, which is on our Patreon, which is on my LinkedIn.
Yeah, there are a lot of links you got to follow, but once you get there, it's very self-intuitive. Anyway, Gavin, what's also self-evident right now is that this podcast needs to end.
I think we gotta go.
Okay, my watch that doesn't exist is saying it's time to go. So anyway, people, I'm pretty sure it's Monday. Have a good week. All right, I think that's right.
Yes, I'm Gavin saying yes.
I'm hearing. I'm hearing in my ear. I'm hearing that I'm right. Anyway, Gavin, say the outro. We love you all. Thank you for calling. Goodbye.
Elizabeth, baby's mama, thank you all for calling. Y'all be like them and give us a shout at 803-563-7169. We love hearing from you guys. Give AT some advice. Give us something to talk about. Do you put your kids in cat beds? we need to know. You can also leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Those are also welcome. I appreciate that. And stay up to date with the latest news on sctv.org and southcarolinapublicradio.org. And don't forget to support your local newspapers. For the South Carolina Lede, I'm Gavin Jackson. Be well, South Carolina. It's a judgment-free zone, but I still judge people. They don't know that I'm doing it, but I'm doing it. I've known about Rena. Tell Rena I said hi. Thank you.